Our next speaker is Dr. Jeremy Price, and he's going to be presenting on design and implementation of a radiation oncology standardized letter of evaluation for the evaluation of medical students and radiation oncology residency applicants.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very excited to present. This is a work in progress. This is something currently that we're working on within the scope of the ROECSG undergraduate medical education working group. So anxious to hear all of your feedback. So, as we're all aware, residency applications to radiation oncology are certainly in flux in these past couple of years. And there's a lot of data that already exists within our field showing that clerkship grades, letters of recommendation can be subjective and are susceptible to bias. Just for example, one study that was done showed that there can be gender differences in the actual verbiage that's used in letters of recommendation, that underrepresented medicine applicants were less likely to get standout descriptors in their letters, and that when it comes to actual clerkship grades that are received, overall 80% of rotators in radiation oncology will get honors or the equivalent highest grade possible, making it very difficult to distinguish between applicants who completed either home rotations or away rotations in radiation oncology. Add to that the fact that USMLE Step 1 is now pass-fail, and your ability to kind of distinguish between applicants is becoming more and more difficult. And taking a step back, we know that radiation oncology has been less diverse compared to the overall medical school population and compared to peer specialties. And what we'd like to be able to do then is to increase diversity in the field, make our evaluations less biased. So the question we have is, how can we better assess medical students and promote diversity among residency applicants to radiation oncology? And to that end, I think we can learn from another specialty that's in emergency medicine. So they adopted this, what's called the SLOE, or the Standardized Letter of Evaluation. That was first done in 1995 on paper. It was moved to a digital format in 2006. It's run by a collaborative group called EM. I included the link here for you to see. And there's multiple pieces of literature now in the emergency medicine literature showing that this is now the single most important criteria, in fact, in residency admissions, more than the steps had been, more than letters of recommendation, more than other clerkship grades. So knowing that this model exists in another field, our goal then was to design and hopefully implement a radiation oncology specific SLOE to promote transparency, diversity, and interest in radiation oncology. And in discussion with program directors in emergency medicine, taking some of their anecdotes, they said that the strength of the SLOE is that it's able to kind of cut through the prose. It was very straightforward. It offered kind of a more objective and concise evaluation tool overall. And to tell you a little bit more about it, the SLOE is completed after each emergency rotation as it stands now, whether it be home or away, and it collects what's called the EMQ7. So these kind of 7 key criteria that should be readily adaptable to radiation oncology, looking at things like commitment to the field, work ethic, ability to develop an actionable plan for patient care, ability to work on a team, and then what has been shown to be kind of the most impactful questions when it came to rank order lists and things like that is, how much support do you think the candidate would need in residency? And what is the candidate's likelihood of future success in the field? Notably, the evaluator ranks the depth of their exposure to the student. So whether they met for over just a couple of days in a month-long rotation, or whether they worked very closely together, for example. Also notably, there's a narrative assessment to qualify everything that came before it, because part of the evaluation is scoring them compared to, for example, top 10%, top third, middle third, bottom third, with the goal being that this actually represents the bell curve distribution and not like that 80% lopsided figure that I presented before. And this tool's been validated multiple studies now showing that it's able to accurately rate applicants against their peers. It's much less susceptible to bias by either gender or race. It gives residency program directors actionable information that actually helps in assembling the rank order lists. On the applicant side, it allowed them, because it was more transparent and they can better assess their own strengths and weaknesses, allowed them to submit fewer applications. So there was an incentive for the applicant as well. And notably, it's not meant to take the place of just regular feedback that you're going to be giving your students. This is something that is really done in addition to that. So in trying to move towards a radiation oncology specific SLOE, what we'd like to be able to do is to assess the current state of medical student evaluation in our field and look at the current metrics that at least are currently most important when programs are making their rank order lists, for example. It'll also allow us to see who's rotating in terms of students, how those rotations are structured, how grading is done. For example, is it done on a curve, or is it just up to the clerkship director at that school? And is there objective feedback or just kind of subjective feedback going to those students? And the current plan that we have is we have IRB protocol submitted at Fox Chase Cancer Center here. And part of why I'm presenting now is to just generate awareness for this. So in the next month, we'll be sending out this survey. And the target audience is going to be members of ADROP, medical student clerkship directors. And I'd also like to be able to send it to other stakeholders in medical student education, for example, like the ARROW board. And what we hope to be able to glean from this study is real cross-sectional data, current, looking at trends in clerkship and admissions criteria. We want to be able to formulate kind of the final criteria that would be included on our radiation oncology specific SLOE, so making like an ROQ, similar to the EM-SLOE that currently exists. Most importantly, perhaps, is looking at how willing clerkship directors and radiation oncology residency programs are to actually buy in, because buy-in is going to be what makes this ultimately successful or not in the end. And if adopted, it'll provide a more objective and transparent tool to be able to evaluate our students, hopefully be able to promote DEI in our field. And maybe by trying to do something a little more innovative, we can try appealing to more medical students to get interested in our field as well. So I know that there are a lot of potential challenges, and most notably, who's going to kind of be in charge of collecting this? Is it going to be ADROP? Is it going to be like an offshoot of ROECSG? Is it going to be just its own standalone institution? Potential privacy concerns, especially if we were to implement an online platform. Buy-in, like I already mentioned, and who gets the final say-so? Do we just go through like a survey? Do we have a more formal Delphi process? And I'm certainly looking for feedback. So you can see I put my email and Twitter handle on there. And having said all that, I'd really just like to thank my institution, co-authors on this project, most notably the ROECSG and the UGME working group, who just provided a framework for me to be able to begin developing this project. And future thanks to everyone who actually notices this pop up in their inbox and completes the survey. So I'd be more than happy to take any questions. And thank you all for your attention today.